They tried to steal my $280,000 home with $4,800 in fake violations while I was watching my mother die. Until I stood up in their packed emergency meeting, flashed my federal judge badge, and watched their whole scam collapse like a Jenga tower in an earthquake. Wild, right? Picture this for a second. 47 angry neighbors packed like sardines in our musty community center, news cameras rolling, and this HOA president barking at me to shut up and just pay the fines. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, nerves snapping like live wires. And me, I'm calm, reaching into my purse, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Federal Judge Patricia Hawthorne." You could have heard a pin drop. And what I've seen here tonight. I said, multiple federal crimes. Brenda, the president, went pale as cottage cheese. Her cousin the deputy took 3 steps away like he was dodging an oncoming train. Game over, right there. But let me back up a sec. Because no one expects their life to explode over HOA nonsense when they're just trying to survive the worst year of their life. My name's Patricia Hawthorne, and for 18 years, I've been a federal judge, but 3 years ago, I was just tired. Burned out from years on the bench, listening to con artists and lawyers split hairs while real people got hurt. I bought a modest ranch in Meadowbrook Estates, thinking I could finally be anonymous. Just another face at the HOA pool, waving from my driveway, and complaining about streaming prices. For almost 3 years, it worked. Nobody cared who I was. I was Patricia, the lady whose mailbox matched all the others. The peace lasted right up until my mother got sick. 6 months, that's all I got with her, and I spent it 200 miles away, holding her hand while hospice did their best in a room that smelled like bleach and broken promises. The day after her funeral, still in my black dress, still numb, I walk in my door and get slapped with a stack of certified letters. The big one. Final notice, $2,400 in violations. My hands shook. 12 grass violations, $50 each, for being half an inch too tall, from their own contractor. 6 mailbox violations for not being the regulation color. My box was forest green, same as 47 others. And the kicker? $900 for unauthorized landscaping. I'd pulled a dead rosebush with written approval. Screenshots on my phone. You see where this is going? Every so-called violation happened when I was photographed at my mother's bedside. The president herself, Brenda, signed the letter, pay in 10 days or face foreclosure. I chased her through 3 days of voicemail hell, finally cornered her, and got that fake sweet tone. Violations are violations, Mrs. Hawthorne. Grief isn't an excuse for property neglect. Maybe you'd be happier in a senior community? If looks could kill, she'd have dropped dead right then. You know what I mean? That was the moment 18 years of legal instinct kicked in. I started digging. 3 houses recently sold way under market after violation campaigns, all bought by a company called KCS Holdings. Turns out, Brenda's family owns both the HOA and the construction company snapping up these homes. Coincidence, my foot. The details made it obvious. All the letters had the same typo, same signature, same targeting of folks dealing with loss, illness, or just plain old age. This wasn't about lawns. It was a machine for stealing homes. I watched Brenda's white Lexus parked in front of Florence Murphy's house. 82 years old, newly widowed, clutching a violation letter in tears. Not just me. This was their business model, and I wasn't about to let it slide. Then Brenda escalated. 48 hours after I called her out, I get a last-minute emergency meeting notice. Tuesday, 2 p.m., even though the bylaws require a week's notice. They didn't care about rules, just intimidation. I showed up expecting a handful of folks. Instead, it was a scene straight out of a bad reality show. Brenda at the front, navy blazer, blonde bob, clipboard like a weapon. Her nephew Chad, the inspector, next to her, grinning like he had a bonus riding on every signature. She fires up a PowerPoint, photos of my grass, my mailbox, the rosebush spot. Chad documented everything, she claimed. I stood up, heart racing, but voice steady. May I respond? This isn't a courtroom, she sneered. Then why am I being prosecuted? Binder down, boom, every approval, every receipt, photos from their own contractors. Brenda barely glanced. These could be fabricated, she sniffed. Fraud. Me? I've sentenced people for less. Are you calling me a liar? Desperate people fabricate evidence, she said, turning to the crowd like she was starring in a courtroom drama. They called for a vote. Just the board, not the residents whose lives they were wrecking. As hands shot up, I hit record on my phone. For the record, these violations happened while I was caring for my dying mother, documented by hospice. You're ignoring evidence and filing liens without proper notification. Brenda's mask slipped for the first time. Then came the first twist. Tom Bradley, a gruff old Marine, slipped me a folded paper as folks left. You're not the first. Same pattern, 15 families. The list of homes, violation dates, sale prices, all funneled to KCS Holdings. The scam was out in the open. Brenda retaliated. The next morning, her SUV rolls up at dawn, Chad trailing with ruler and camera. Every inch of my property measured, photographed, poked, even the garden gnome. This became a daily thing. Wellness checks, meant to wear me down. Then the services started dropping. My lawn contract canceled, pool access shut off, mailbox key dead. They cut me off from everything but my mortgage bill. So, I did what I do best, went to the courthouse. Dug through dusty files, breathing stale air, and there it was, 23 homes forced into distress sales, every one linked back to Brenda. The HOA had raked in $180,000 in violation fees, but only spent $23,000 on the community. The rest? Consulting fees to Brenda's family business. But the real bombshell? The original 1994 HOA documents. They required actual homeowner votes for rule changes, and those votes never happened. Every fine, every lien was illegal. And then, leaving the courthouse, I caught Brenda on the phone in the garage, clear as day. Accelerate the timeline on Hawthorne. My buyer's financing expires next month. Make her life hell until she gives up. Worked on 15 others. I recorded every word. That night, over coffee with Margaret Morgan, a neighbor fighting her own violations, I learned this scam spanned 3 counties and over $2 million in stolen home equity. Be careful, she warned. Brenda's got City Hall connections. But after all this, dangerous was just another day at the office for me. I spread Tom's list and the courthouse evidence across my kitchen table. Brenda thought she was crushing a widow. She was actually messing with a judge who's taken down bigger crooks in her sleep. 3 days later, I get a certified letter, $7,000 demanded, or they'll foreclose. Claims I skipped mediation, never scheduled, evidence of dog urine, I don't own a dog, and mail refusals when I was literally holding my mother's hand as she died. That's when I called Daniel Rodriguez, the attorney representing half the neighborhood. He'd already seen the same scam in action. Mrs. Hawthorne, he said, you're the 7th resident I'm representing this year. Same tactics. They're lazy now, using the same template, and even Chad's name on properties he never visited. The end game? Brenda wanted my corner lot for a duplex development worth $300,000 profit. But to pull it off, she had to drive me out fast. That's when I revealed my real job, federal judge, 18 years on the bench. Daniel nearly spit his coffee. You're a judge? And Brenda's looking at federal fraud, fair housing, and racketeering charges. I didn't want to play my trump card yet, but it was time. Tom and I went back to the archive, found the original HOA incorporation papers, annual audits, open books, and, here's the beautiful part, an emergency clause. If 25% of homeowners petitioned, the board could be suspended immediately for misconduct. We had 37 signatures. Just needed 8 more. Our war council assembled. Me, Margaret, Tom, Daniel, and Sarah Kim, a city planner's wife with inside scoop on Brenda's real estate shenanigans. We mapped out every scam, every victim. Margaret had a spreadsheet tallying the stolen millions. Sarah dropped the final twist. Brenda's permit for the duplex was already pre-approved. She'd been gunning for my lot before my mom even got sick. So, we filed the complaints, built the evidence, and prepped for the public showdown. The next days were chaos. Red spray paint on my mailbox, tires slashed, anonymous threats, Brenda's nephew caught on camera with a can of paint. The intimidation was ugly, but my legal instincts were sharper. But then, Florence, yes, the widow who Brenda used as a pawn, knocked on my door, crying, and handed over dozens of forged violation reports. I can't do this anymore. She paid me to spy and sign whatever she needed. I'll testify. Brenda had lost her last ally. At the emergency meeting, Brenda tried to put on a show, dragging in her deputy cousin, waving fake charges at me. Florence stood up and, voice trembling but clear, confessed the whole plot. Paid bribes, forged documents, never witnessed a thing. The room went from suspicion to open revolt. Time for my move. I stood, calm as could be, held up my badge, and said, "My name is Patricia Hawthorne, United States District Court Judge. What you've witnessed is racketeering, federal fraud, and violation of civil rights under color of law." The deputy's face drained. Brenda wilted into her chair as I dialed the FBI right there on speaker, requesting agents at the scene for ongoing federal crimes. The room exploded. Applause, tears, vindication. Brenda shrieked about entrapment, but even her cousin stepped away. Within 20 minutes, black SUVs rolled up. FBI agents cuffed Brenda, Chad, and her brother-in-law. Special Agent Santos announced to the room this was the biggest residential fraud scheme in district history. As they led Brenda away, she tried to spit one last threat. "You think you've won." But I just smiled and said, "Federal prison doesn't care about your HOA authority." 6 months later, the garden where Brenda wanted her duplex is now the Patricia Hawthorne Memorial Garden. She's serving 8 years for racketeering. The community got $2.1 million back, our HOA fees dropped, and Margaret's on city council. Tom runs veterans outreach. Sarah organizes family networks. Florence is treasurer, and the whole neighborhood is safer, kinder, more united than I could have dreamed. My mother's memory lives on in the scholarship fund we built from the settlement money. But the best part? Now, every morning, I walk past my green mailbox, hearing kids laugh in the pool, neighbors organizing potlucks instead of whispering in fear. Justice isn't automatic, but when you stand up and fight, and bring receipts, you can change everything. So here's my challenge. Have you ever survived an HOA nightmare or watched a neighbor get bullied? Drop your story in the comments. Let's build a community that knows their rights, fights for justice, and never lets the bullies win. Yeah, that happened. And it could happen to you. Stand up. You've got more power than you think.